Our next visionary speaker is Dolphy Goveas. Dolphy Goveas is the head of Global HR Operations, Gudob Asia Holdings Limited from Indonesia. Mr. Dolphy is an easily approachable leader with skills in bridging the gap between managers and employees by resolving the issues. He is a coordinator and in-person of HR Shapers International Community in Indonesia, driving strategic HR initiatives to realize bottom-line results and enhance employee engagement in the pursuit of business objectives across multiple industries and geographies. He's very much talented in building and motivating large and multicultural teams that will exceed corporate expectations. Skilled at strategic business partnering roles across palm oil, banking, hospitality, healthcare, retail, advertising, and manufacturing sectors in countries like India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Malaysia, Philippines, and so on. Yes, he is an overall global businessman. Hope he will relieve his secret of business to us also. GenuineIN, the talent technology platform, which is intended to build a complete ecosystem globally for the talents, welcomes you. Welcome, Mr. Dolphy. The board is yours.
Thank you, Indrani and Som. It's a great pleasure for me to be part of this international conference on talent ecosystem. Let me show my presentation. Okay. Is the presentation can be seen?
Yes.
Okay. Taking from what Shantanu said, that right time and right place, I think the application of psychometric assessments for talent acquisition always goes into these two things, that whether a company wants to hire a right talent for the right place at the right time and the right job. So what is very important for us to, what I would be walking you through is mostly on why assessments are important and how it helps for a company as well as a candidate or an employee to get that right perspective. Before moving, I think already been explained about me. Over 25 years experience I have, and my personal motto is always capturing hearts and minds. So I'm a people person and will enjoy working with people all the time. What is today's reality is employees no longer seek a job for life, but roles where there is challenging work. They can develop skills and maximize their career progression. In 90s and early 2000, there used to be a simple acronym everybody used to say, okay, once I join a company, I will only retire from that company. Or there used to be a saying in Japanese corporate world, cradle to tomb. That means once you join a company, you would only retire that company. But that's no more happening now. Things have changed a lot. And why basically should a company hire right people? Red earlier rightly said, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional to do the job, wait until you hire an amateur. And what did our own Mahatma Gandhi said? A candidate is the most important visitor on your premises. He is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him because he is not an interruption on our work. He is the purpose of it. He is not an outsider in our business. He is part of it. We are not doing him a favor by serving him, but he is doing us a favor by giving us an opportunity to do so. I think Mr. Gandhi said this almost 70 to 80 years before, but it is the reality now. We never used to treat candidates in a right way, but today, if we don't treat that right way, I don't think a candidate will ever work with the company. Now, how to get right people? So there are few things very important. When we consider how do we want to acquire a right fitment, so job fitment is very important, competency match, culture fitment of the company. You may be a fantastic person, but if you don't fit into the culture of the company, it is impossible for you to excel in that organization. Potential and willingness to grow. I would walk you through how a company or how a company can decide on a candidate whether how he is going to willing or potential to grow. Importantly, individual aspirations and organizational needs and opportunities. And why do we do employee profiling? How do you know when you recruit a person whether he would be engaged, how long he would work with you, and what is his commitment? You would never be able to know a candidate when you by just reading his CV or just reading his credentials. So that's where when you do profilings, you would basically come to know why. And also, how do you know who would be the person who will fit into this chart? You do not know who would be the Lincoln or who would be a person who would be the right fit into a company. You would never be able to know by interviewing somebody 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So that's where when we do employee profiling, the 4 areas where we basically look into is the positive traits, the dark traits, motivational and value preferences, and cognitive abilities. So overall, we basically look into a candidate, how he fits into a role. There are multiple assessments in the market. And for sure, I'm not an advocate of any of the assessments, but yes, I have been a guinea pig of most of the assessments. So whenever there is a new assessment comes in, I love to be myself, test and try. Then I basically compare, okay, if I have done Harrison or SHL or Hogan or MBTI or Belbin or a Strength Finder, whichever, do I get those same traits in all tests? Which means, yes, the test is almost accurate. So that's the reason when you do 4, 5, 6 times a test, and when you see that results are consistently coming, which means that those kind of profilings are very important. And what is a psychometric test? These are formal structured exercises designed by psychologists. Remember, it's not designed by a normal person. These are designed by a psychologist to measure psychological qualities such as reasoning, ability, and personality factors. Because the experience and candidates' credentials are already there with you in your CV, because you call him for an interview or you shortlist him first round, second round, depending on that. But it is not easy for you to decide on his abilities on reasoning and personalities factor. So now they are carefully researched and tested to ensure that they are fair, reliable, and valid. They are administered and scored in standardized way, allowing your results to be compared with people who have taken these tests. Because it's not that just once, the test must be done millions of times. Comparison groups used will often be other candidates or similar types of employees. So those tests are basically done, evaluated, and they have seen those people who have done these tests have been successful if their scorings are better. Now, similarly, what is an assessment? An employee assessment is a simple concept. Basically, you must pinpoint the skills, knowledge, and behavioral tendencies of each candidate in relation to the competencies required to excel in a particular job. Because every job, when you have competencies, and then you would basically link those competencies to the candidate's profile. You will basically look whether he has experiences, he has qualifications, which companies he has worked. But now skill sets, you would be able to see from the assessments. So in order to be valuable to a given company, employees must exhibit these competencies at the present time as opposed to the future potentials. So you would not know how to evaluate a candidate at the present time because he's just coming as a candidate to you. So in order to evaluate each employee fully, you need to look at the functional competencies or the skills and experience they have, as well as their behavior competencies. Character traits, they need to achieve their goals. So overall, when you evaluate with the test, psychometric or an assessment or a profiling, you basically identify the candidates fits in what kind of role. Now, psychometric tests are done in entire employee life cycles, be it when you want to attract a candidate, when you want to select a candidate, when you want to develop, deploy, and retain. Why? Because when you have a profile of a person, an employee or a candidate, you would exactly know why you want to attract him and what are the areas you will identify and know why you want to select him. Once he is on board, it's important for you to develop him. Otherwise, you won't stay. My first slide already said that people do not work for lifetime now. They will only see if the company is giving them an opportunity to grow. So when you develop a person using their areas where they need to excel and grow, then it is easy for a company to deploy to the right job, to the right level, promote them, career progression, whatever may be. And when you deploy to the right job, important to retain them, maybe giving what they need, training, compensation, everything. If you fail, the cycle restarts. You need to start again attracting a right candidates. So how to find right talent through competencies? I would not take much time because most of you would know. Competencies are characteristics of an employee that lead and demonstrate the skills and abilities. So that's where basically you will come to know whether the candidate would be able to have an effective performance within an occupational area. A cluster of related knowledge, skills, and abilities that affect a major part of one's job, that correlates with performance on the job, that can be measured against well-accepted standards, and that can be improved via training and development. So underlying character of a person result in effective and or a superior performance. That's very important. Now, why do we need it? Because people will have to know their respective roles and key competencies and address employee needs. What am I on skills? Where I am I on 40%, 50%, 60%? Or what percentile am I on my skill sets? And I would not know that unless I do an assessment. What are the gaps and how to improve on the skills? I would basically, when I do an assessment, we would basically see that candidates has few gaps and how those gaps we can fill for the right job. So for example, if a sales job, we are trying to look for a sales manager, you would basically see what kind of skill sets are required. And then if there are gaps, you will basically fill those gaps through the assessments. And what is expected of my role and what are possible future roles. So people have to know about competencies which help them to deliver better to customer, that is internal and external. Organizational and business needs are very important because high performance, expectation management on career and promotions, and higher productivity with improved skills. So that's where these profilings will help us to see which candidate would rightly fit. Now, very important what we see. When we see suitability and eligibility. Now, when you recruit a candidate, you basically go on his eligibility. That's experience, training, and education. Because you get a CV, you shortlist a CV, looking at his education, looking at his experience. If you need a sales manager, you would basically look for a 10 years experience in sales and marketing. You also see some of the trainings what the candidate has gone through, and also you will see whether he has a a management degree in marketing and what kind of other experience he holds. But we would not be able to know whether that candidates, despite having right eligibilities criteria, would be suitable, because eligibility, can the person perform? Always remember, when you select a candidate, when you identify a right CV, you basically see in a candidate CV whether the person can perform or not. Suitability comes from whether the candidate will perform, whether the person will perform that particular role. And how do we identify that? Dale Carnegie, the famous author and developer of self-improvement training, is quoted as saying that people rarely succeed unless they have fun in what they are doing. So is it fun or enjoyment that makes us want to stay with a job or a career? Can we really be successful? Yes. Why? If we enjoy certain things doing. Now, for example, let's see. You would basically know these areas: certification, skills and abilities, educational levels, educational subjects, educational achievements, specific types of experiences, and specific amounts of experience, which you will basically know by interviewing him, by looking at his past experience, what he has achieved. But you would never know suitability factors, which are actually hidden, because passion for the job. He may show a lot of passion during interview, but do you know whether you will have real passion? The interest, the work preferences, what kind of work preferences he does. Does he like to work in a seated place? Does he like to go and interact with people? Interpersonal skills, how good he is at interpersonal skills. Career expectation, what is he expecting? If you are recruiting a salesperson, is he expecting in the next 3 to 5 years to be a manager, or he is happy to be a salesperson? Behavioral competencies and how does behave under stress. So these things can be only done through a assessment or a psychometric test. And then, very important, a person's level of previous work experience, education, abilities will always tell you that, yeah, okay, he can do that job. Suitability, which normally many people don't focus because they are in a rush to recruit. The HR is busy in turnaround time because they need to recruit within 30 days, 60 days. So they want to close that position. Now, they rarely sometimes forget to see whether the candidate is suitable. The degree to which a person's natural tendencies and preferences corresponded with the requirement of a position. That is, suitability is measured by taking into account the following areas: personality traits, attitudes, motivation, interpersonal skills, decision-making tendencies, personal balance, task preferences, work environment, and interest. So overall, you would basically able to evaluate a candidate understanding what he likes and what he wants to do. And a person who is suitable for a position normally has the following character. Always remember, he enjoys the different tasks that are required because he enjoys, so that he will do more. He's very interested in the work, doesn't mind the work environment. If he is passionate about the job, he would not mind what kind of work environment he is in, whether it is outside, outdoor, indoor, offshore, onshore, doesn't matter. Maintains the proper attitude and motivations to perform competently, enjoys the type of interpersonal interactions, exhibits the decision-making skills required for the position, and does not possess negative traits that could hinder his or her productivity. And in order to accurately assess a suitability, a thorough analysis of the job is necessary. So always remember, when you want to assess a suitability of a candidate, remember these things. These are very important. What types of tasks need to be done? What types of interest does the person need to have? What types of work environment does the person need to work in? What types of attitudes are needed to do that job effectively? What types of motivations are required? What types of interpersonal interactions are required? And what types of decision making is required? And what types of traits should be avoided for that position? If you are recruiting a HR person and you have a very aggressive and very abrasive person, I don't think you would go and recruit a person. So that's very important. And finally, very simple and very important things. I think I'm very passionate about this Harrison assessments where they follow enjoyment theory. So basically, when we see, when a person enjoys an activity, he does it more. And when he does it more, he gets more accolades from others. Then he learns more to improve the skills. And when he learns to improve the skills, he receives recognition. So the cycle continues always. So against to it, a person who does not enjoy a work, what he basically does, he avoids the activity. You see people procrastinating, avoiding a role, avoiding not to doing something. He fails to learn new skills, improve our skill, negative feedback, and end of the day, in the bell curve, we try to terminate those people. So if a person dislikes an activity, tend to avoid it. Thus, he fails to learn and improve the related skills, may elicit negative feedback, as a result, self-criticism, which contributes to disliking the activity. So to sum up, very important, the personality test, psychometric test, or profiling assessments normally helps the companies to find from a candidate the optimal flow. A person has skills, has challenges. So how does he perform in a role? So you would basically see if those assessments, and of course, with my own experience of 15 years using these assessments in multiple companies, in multiple roles, multiple levels, we have seen with high scores, they have been able to perform well. I'm not saying 100%, but there are more than 80 to 85% people have been able to achieve better results by having right optimal flow. To sum up, I have learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So a candidate is your first customer. Always remember, you may have to treat him very nicely, get him on board as you feel is right fitment at the right time. So thank you once again to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Dolphy. That's a wonderful speech, really. Here you have assessed and understand that we are running out of time and we have to allot other speakers also on board. Thank you, Mr. Dolphy. Once again, we will call you in our another conference to give a very broad speech. Thank you.
Thank you.